Вы не забудете путешествий по железной дороге Швейцарии, так как мы прокатимся на Ледниковом экспрессе.
Switzerland, lying at the center of the Alpine chain, boasts a unique railway line running the length of the country through some of the most dramatic mountain scenery in Europe. The service which makes this journey is the world-famous Glacier Express, running between Zermatt and St. Moritz. In the first part of our excursion, we joined the BVZ train at the mountain village of Zermatt, lying in the shadow of the Matterhorn. Our journey with the Brieg-Visp-Zermatt Railway Company took us through the fertile Vispertal down the steep rack-assisted track. At Brieg, our train was taken over by the Furka Oberalp Company, whose picturesque line passed through the Rhone Valley. Our way lay through the beautiful Goms region with its sun-blackened chalets and Baroque churches. After passing through the Furka tunnel, we ran along the Urseren Valley towards Andermatt, before making the steep winter climb to the summit of the line at the Oberalp Pass. The Furka Oberalp line ends at Disentis Muster, where the impressive Benedictine Abbey dominates both the station and the village. Disentis, situated at the crossroads of three major pass routes, has been an important settlement for centuries. The Romans conquered this region in 15 BC, naming it Raetia Prima, and their influence still remains. Even today, a variation of Latin called Romanche is spoken throughout Canton Graubünden and is Switzerland's fourth official language. The name Raetia was adopted by the canton's own railway company on its foundation at the end of the 19th century. The Rhaetische Bahn, which today has the largest route mileage of any private Swiss railway, originated in 1894 with the construction of the Albula line from Chur to St. Moritz. The following year, it took over the line and stock of the recently opened Lanquart Davos Company. By 1915, the RHB had steadily extended its tracks to bring train services to most parts of the canton, and in the 1940s, it absorbed the privately owned Arosa and Bernina companies, thereby expanding into the large enterprise it is today. The first train reached Disentis from Reichenau on the 1st of August 1912 amid great celebrations. However, the station remained a terminus for almost 15 years, until the Furka Oberalp tracks made the connection from Brieg in 1926. The Glacier Express service from Zermatt began running along the route in the 1930s, and for over 60 years, this scenic journey has delighted travellers from all over the world. Only the coaches of the Glacier Express make the complete journey, and the Furka locomotive, which has hauled the train since Brieg, ends its duties here. Additional rolling stock and the double restaurant car are attached with an RHB GE 442 locomotive at the head. We are now ready to continue our journey, travelling along the Rhine Valley line towards Chur. Disentis station lies at 1,130 meters above sea level, and we must lose almost 550 meters in height during our 59-kilometer run to Chur, so our way runs gently downhill. The ruling gradient to begin with will be 1 in 37 before we descend to the valley floor. The track crosses the Lumpenia Valley on an impressive 153-metre-long viaduct, just one of the 17 bridges and viaducts found along the first 6.5 kilometres of our route. The deep Rusine Gorge is crossed by no less than 3 bridges. The old wooden structure, built in 1857, was joined in 1911 by the railway viaduct, while a third road bridge was added in 1938. The route along the Rhine Valley was opened in 2 stages. Building began on the line from Reichenau to Elance in 1898, and the opening took place 5 years later on the 1st of June 1903. In 1910, construction recommenced, the work progressing so swiftly that the whole route to Disentis was opened only 2 years later. We're travelling through Graubünden, Switzerland's largest canton, which covers about 1/6 of the country's entire area. The village of Trun was important for the development of Graubünden, as in 1424 a farmers' alliance was established here to preserve the people's traditional freedoms and territory against feudal incursions. Graubünden, which means Grey League, was one of 6 regions to join the Swiss Confederation in 1803. After Trun, the line enters the 227-metre-long Tiraun tunnel, the first of 6 bores found along the line between Disentis and Reichenau. The reservoir beside the track feeds the local hydroelectric power station which services the valley, though not the railway, which draws its current from the main RHB Kraftwerk at Silz next to the Albula line. Until 1922, the services to Disentis were steam-hauled, the line then being electrified at 11 kilovolts 16 2/3 Hertz AC. This system subsequently adopted on the Furka Oberalp and BVZ sections of the Glacier Express route. The entire Rhaetian Railways network uses meter gauge track, and even the steepest gradients are worked entirely by adhesion. There's been habitation at Elance since early times, although little remains of the medieval walled town, which rose to importance as the capital of the Grey League. The base of the Obertor dates back to 1513, but the remains of the town walls mainly date from the early 18th century, when they were extended with the financial assistance of cantons Zurich and Bern. Many of the houses found in the peaceful old quarter date from the 16th and 17th centuries. The Vorder Rhein, which flows through Elance, soon narrows into a deep gorge, caused by the river cutting its way through the debris left by a prehistoric landslide, which blocked the original stream bed. One of the most exciting ways to see this majestic landscape, nicknamed the Swiss Grand Canyon, is by taking to the water on one of the many rafting trips which are organized locally. The River Rhine is one of Europe's major waterways, flowing for 1,320 kilometers from source to mouth. Almost a third of its course lies in Switzerland, the river rising in the Alps and passing through no less than 8 cantons before reaching Basel. Thence it flows through Germany and Holland into the North Sea. There are awe-inspiring views from the bottom of the gorge, and in places the white cliffs tower almost 300 meters above our craft. Between the energetic spells of paddling, there's plenty of time to enjoy the majestic scenery on the trip downriver. The ride down the canyon is full of thrills, though safety is paramount and proper equipment essential. The experienced guides know just where the most exciting route lies, and there's no shortage of fun for all the crew. We now have the opportunity to pass through the Rhine Gorge in a drier form of transport as we travel with the Glacier Express towards Chur. Graubünden is a mountainous region where the land ranges in height from 270 meters above sea level to over 4,000 meters above sea level. It not only has boundaries with 4 other Swiss cantons, but also shares international borders: Italy, Austria and Liechtenstein. We've crossed the Rhine from the southern to the northern bank, and now the river views are on the right-hand side of the train. The water is normally well below the level of the track, but one exceptional day, the 25th of September 1927, the river rose to an unprecedented height, completely flooding the line. Our tracks merge with those of the Albula line from St. Moritz, and we travel along this joint route as far as Chur. Almost immediately, the line crosses the Hinter Rhine River, which combines with the Vorder Rhine here to form the main waterway. After Reichenau, there's double track running as far as Chur, the only section of the Rhaetian Railway which has this facility. The second line from Chur to the Ems Chemical Works, which is the largest industrial complex in Canton Graubünden, was brought into operation in 1958. An extension to Reichenau was completed in 1962. The third rail runs into the works, enabling standard gauge wagons to link the site with the main SBB network. Chur station is not only home to the RHB, but is also an important terminus for the Swiss Federal Railways. The complex has dual gauge working, with the meter gauge rails of the Rhaetian Railway lying alongside the standard gauge tracks of the SBB. Our train must make a reversal here, giving us the perfect opportunity to stroll around the lovely old city, the chief settlement of the area since the 3rd century, and today, the capital of Canton Graubünden. There's been a cathedral here since the year 451, although the present building dates only back as far as the 12th century. The Bishop's Palace and Cathedral Square are raised above the town, a physical indication of the power the church once held over the people of this region. Our way now takes us along the 90-kilometer-long Albula line from Chur to the internationally renowned resort of St. Moritz. Chur station has been modernized in the 1990s, and the large glass roof of the covered postcoach terminal makes an eye-catching feature. Our train has made a reversal, losing not only the locomotive but also the double restaurant car. It's gained various additional coaches and is now being hauled by one of the GE 443 locos, the very latest additions to the RHB fleet. We're now travelling over the original part of the Albula line dating from 1894. The section of track to Thusis was constructed through easy terrain and work was completed in less than 2 years, the line opening on the 1st of July 1896. Just outside Chur, we pass the Calanda mountain, whose lofty summit towers almost 2,000 meters above us. Gold was mined here during the early years of the 19th century, although the output was only ever small. The train passes for the second time over the 152-meter-long iron girder Hinterrhein viaduct. Our tracks split away from those to Disentis and head south towards the Domleschg Valley. This defile was formerly of strategic importance, and its sides are dotted with the remains of medieval castles. The loco hauling our train is one of the 9 GE 443 engines delivered during 1994 by SLM Winterthur, with electrical equipment supplied by ABB. They are numbered 641 to 649. The arms of the driver's space-age chair incorporate acceleration and braking controls. The latest computer software is used to ensure efficient running, while the lorry-type horn is UIC standard for Europe. The GE 443 is powered by 4 three-phase asynchronous traction motors driven through GTO thyristors, delivering 4,200 horsepower to the 2 self-steering bogies. The top speed capability is 100 kilometers per hour. They're a reduced-scale development of the RE 44460 locomotive produced for the Swiss Federal Railways in the early 1990s. The aerodynamically shaped ends of the RHB models have been specially designed to enable efficient running through the Vereiner Tunnel, which will link Klosters with the lower Engadine Valley. The shape is also found on similar locos delivered to the Montreux-Oberland-Benoit Railway and the BAM Railway near Lausanne. The station at Thusis is a modern structure rebuilt in the early 1990s. 3 interesting bronze sculptures by Robert Indermaur ensure there are always passengers using the facilities. A settlement grew up at Thusis where the Albula Valley intersects with the Via Mala, which means the Evil Road. This deep gorge contains the San Bernardino Mountain Pass Road, linking eastern Switzerland with Canton Ticino and Italy. At its narrowest part, a flight of 300 steps gives energetic visitors access down the valley side. The viewing platform at the bottom gives an impressive perspective of the rock cleft and the two ancient bridges which span the river some 70 meters above the valley floor. The original path, built in 1473, was supplanted in the early 19th century by a cobbled road, which enabled a regular postcoach service to be introduced. The route through the Via Mala and over the Splugen Pass to Italy was one of the options considered by the railway builders. Eventually, the way along the Albula Valley was chosen as being potentially more lucrative, while still retaining the possibility of an Italian connection from Samoritz to Chiavenna. However, a private company did build a track at the other end of the Splugen Pass between Mesocco and Bellinzona, which opened in 1907 and was absorbed into the RHB in 1942. The Bellinzona-Mesocco line is the only part of the Rhaetian system to run outside Canton Graubünden, as the southernmost part of the track lies in Ticino. In 1972, the southern end of the line between Bellinzona and Castione was closed. 7 years later, the northernmost end of the route between Camma and Mesocco also ceased operations. Today, only an infrequent goods service runs along the remaining tracks, the standard gauge wagons arriving at Castione via the SBB Gotthard line, where they're transferred onto meter gauge piggyback wagons. After Thusis, our way will run along the Albula River valley towards its source in the mountain ridge above Preda. The terrain after Thusis posed a challenge for both railway engineers and builders, which they overcame with the assistance of numerous tunnels and viaducts. Construction began on the line in 1898 and progressed at a relatively fast pace. The 59 kilometers of track to Celerina were in operation within 5 years, with the final 2.5 kilometers to Samoritz opening 12 months later. The viaduct taking the railway across the Albula Valley at Solis lies between the old and new road bridges. At almost 164 meters, it's the longest on the Albula line, while its height above the river of 85 meters also makes it the loftiest. The church of St. Peter at Misdale, perched on the edge of the precipice above the tracks, dates back to the 8th century. Inside, the walls are decorated with well-preserved medieval paintings. The village of Tiefencastle has long been important as the junction of the Albula and Julia Pass roads into the Engadine Valley. The Julia Pass is the more ancient, being used by the Romans as one of their major north-south routes. During the 19th century, when the coaching roads were built, Tiefencastle became a staging post for the horses. The conical peak of Mucetta, whose summit reaches 2,623 meters above sea level, dominates the view of the valley ahead. After Alvenoy, the railway builders were faced with a major problem: to maintain the climb up the valley side while crossing the deep side gorge carved by the river Landwasser. The viaduct constructed is one of the wonders of the line. It carries the track for 142 meters in a 100-meter radius curve directly into a tunnel cut into the rock face 65 meters above the river. This elegant stone construction is one of the most photographed railway bridges in the whole of Europe. On the approach to Filisur station, our track joins the line from Davos, which was brought into service in 1909. Filisur station is a scheduled crossing place for the services from Chur and St. Moritz, and Albula line passengers are able to make an immediate connection with the waiting Davos train. Filisur station also has regular visits from an earlier member of the RHB's electric fleet, which for years proudly hauled the Glacier Express services along the Rhaetian lines. 15 GE 661 locos, affectionately known as baby crocodiles, were brought into service during the 1920s. They gained their nickname because of the sinuous waddling motion they make around the tight curves along the Albula line. Each of their noses houses a 550 horsepower traction motor which drives their 3 axles via a jack shaft and coupling rods, reminiscent of the earlier steam locos. Their top speed of 55 kilometers per hour is just over half that of our Glacier Express locomotive. They were in daily service until the 1980s, hauling both passenger and goods trains, and 4 of these much-loved veterans are still kept in working order. Their stock normally consists of the salon coaches, originally commissioned for the MOB's Golden Mountain Pullman Express, which literally give armchair comfort on the journey. For travellers requiring refreshment, the elegant Stiva Retica provides a range of snacks and drinks in an attractive ambiance. This coach, dating from 1929, was refurbished in the early 1990s, with pine-clad walls and ceiling. There's a choice of seating either at tables or in the bar area. Originally, the Albula line ran with steam, and the RHB still has 3 of these early locomotives in a good state of preservation. Loco number 1, Ratia, purchased by the Lanquart Davos Company in 1896, now makes only rare appearances. The 2 machines which normally haul excursions today are GE45 locos numbers 107 and 108. Loco 108, built by SLM in 1906, is shedded at Semaden, from where she makes occasional outings down the Engadine Valley. Her sister loco, 107, based at Lanquart Sheds, is in equally fine form. After Filisur, our state-of-the-art loco has the task of hauling the train up the narrow Albula Valley. We must gain 740 meters in height before reaching the summit of the line. So gradients of up to 1 in 28 are employed, the steepest found on this route. Just outside Filisur, we enter the Greifenstein Tunnel, a 698-meter-long helicoidal excavation which will bring us out some 24 meters higher up the valley side. The line clings to the very edge of the steep mountainside, a feat of engineering involving the excavation of no less than 13 tunnels during the 10 kilometers of line to Bergun. Bergun village has been closely associated with transportation along the valley since the first travellers made their way over the Albula Pass. This charming settlement is dominated by the 12th century tower, a remnant of the original fortifications which crossed the valley at this point. In 1323, a disastrous fire destroyed the majority of the village, and traces of this conflagration were recently unearthed during archaeological excavations. Many of the houses here date back to the 15th and 16th centuries, with the traditional Engadine style well represented. When the postcoach service opened over the Albula Pass in 1868, Bergun became an important relay station, with passengers staying in the comfortable hotels which were built to accommodate them. The long tradition of hospitality is still upheld, and the village is a popular holiday destination. In the 1990s, the region became the picturesque setting for a television serial, Die Direktorin, based around the local tourist office. Next to Bergun Station, Crocodile number 407 has found a last resting place. For 8 years, she was plinthed at Zurich, but has now returned to her former home and stands guard over the village. After Bergün, our train must gain height rapidly. This is achieved by artificially extending the line in 3 loops, snaking back and forth along the valley side with a horseshoe tunnel at either end. The main views of the village appear through the right-hand windows of our train as we pass along the first level of track. The section of the Albula line between Bergün and Preda is in the process of being modelled by enthusiasts in the large upper story of Bergün's museum. After crossing the Klix viaduct, the track enters the God Tunnel, which takes us on a 486-metre-long curve back towards the village, while raising the track 17 metres in height. The village and the track over which we've just passed are now visible to our left, as is the hilltop settlement at Lach, the setting of the 1950s Swiss film of Heidi. The second tunnel, the Platz, is only just over half the length of the previous bore, raising the track just under 9 metres in height. After Muot halt, the railway's builders were faced with the task of bringing the line through the narrow valley while continuing to gain height, all without recourse to rack assistance. This was achieved by taking the line through no less than 3 spiral tunnels and making 4 crossings back and forth over the river Albula. After crossing the Albula River for the first time, we immediately enter the 662-metre-long Runyuk spiral tunnel, turning in a clockwise direction. This excavation has raised our train over 23 metres in height, and we catch glimpses of the Albula viaduct in the valley below our tracks. The pass road, which winds its way down the valley from Preda to Bergün, is closed to motor vehicles in winter and transformed into a thrilling toboggan run. At the entrance to the Tour tunnel, we have a glimpse of the third Albula viaduct towering above. The 677-metre-long bore, the longest of the spiral tunnels on this section of the line, will raise us over 24 metres in height to emerge on the lofty viaduct. This stone arched structure carries the track for a distance of 138 metres, some 27 metres above the river bed. While most of the engineering constructions date from the building of the route, the 220-metre-long curve of the Maliera Avalanche Gallery is a recent addition. built between 1983 and 1985. Having crossed the Albula River for the last time, we now enter the final spiral tunnel, the Zuondra. At 535 meters, this is the shortest of the three excavations. The height gain of 19 meters is enough to allow the track to continue directly towards Preda. At Preda, the railway reaches the end of its ascent up the valley. The road continues through bleak mountain terrain through the Albula Pass, 2,315 meters above sea level, crossing the watershed of the North Sea and the Black Sea. The train, however, must pass through the Albula Tunnel, currently the longest excavation on the entire Rhaetian railway network. This 5,864.5 meter bore took almost 5 years to complete, back-breaking labour for the many hundreds of workers. The breakthrough took place in May 1902, and the whole structure was finished in time for the opening of the line the following year. We've passed the summit of the line inside the tunnel, at 1,823 meters above sea level, and our way will now run gently downhill to the Engadine Valley. The Beva Valley today is a peaceful region attracting numerous walkers. However, up to a century ago, bears roamed free over the wooded slopes. At Beva village, our line merges with the tracks from Skol Tarasp along the lower Engadine. The broad valley gives panoramic vistas towards Pontresina. The Rhaetian Railway's spectacular Bernina line runs over these mountains into Italy. The Engadine Valley is an attractive region with an exceptionally dry and sunny climate, a combination which has long attracted visitors. This area is a popular winter sports centre, and the outline of the famous Cresta Run is visible in an adjoining meadow. A final tunnel brings us out into the station at St. Moritz, signifying the end of our 8-hour journey across Switzerland. The station at St. Moritz is a late addition to the valley, which has been inhabited since the Bronze Age. The village growing up along the lake was named after Mauritius, a Roman soldier martyred for his faith. The leaning tower, the symbol of St. Moritz, was part of the medieval church dedicated to him. The region has attracted tourists for centuries, originally to the mineral water springs at the head of the lake, and since the 19th century as a popular holiday resort. The town grew rapidly, with hotels and restaurants catering for the numerous visitors who would often spend months at a time enjoying the glorious weather. The lake is one of a chain carved along the upper Engadine Valley during the Ice Age, which today provide the perfect setting for a variety of water sports. For the energetic, there's the opportunity to take to the water, the valley breezes making for a thrilling sail. Winter sports in Switzerland have their roots in the Hotel Kulm, where the Cresta Bar is a popular meeting place. St. Moritz is noted the world over for its Cresta Run. The first race took place in 1885, and the run formed part of the Winter Olympic Games in 1928 and 1948.
Let's have brown bell to the box.
Dress style is optional. The traditional +4s and thick woolen socks are just as likely to be worn as a brightly coloured suit in the latest aerodynamic material. The present clubhouse, which is strictly members only, dates from 1963. It replaced the earlier wooden cricket pavilion, which had been specially shipped out from England. Women once raced down the Cresta, but today only men compete along this thrilling route, riding face down on a single-man skeleton toboggan only inches away from the ice. St. Moritz also boasts the world's oldest bob run, in which competitors sit in 2- or 4-man bobsleighs. Both men and women are eligible to ride. Besides the usual bobs, the 1.5-kilometre run is also the venue for more unusual races. Speed skating competitions are held with teams and individual contestants taking up the challenge. It's tricky work keeping on your feet, and there are plenty of spills, but that's all part of the fun of winter sports in Switzerland. For a truly spectacular journey along the Swiss Alps from the glaciers above Zermatt to the frozen lake below the village of St. Moritz, the Glacier Express train offers its travellers an unparalleled experience.